Happy Halloween, and I hope you all are doing so very well on this NaNoWriMo Eve or Halloween day evening. It's a beautiful day out, clouds up, wind kind of cooling down, really enjoying this weather. So yeah, I'm super stoked about the weather here and the fact that it's getting cooler and it's turning into fall. Just love this season. So one thing I wanted to mention about writing and some of the issues is simply don't buy into BS mystique. I remember when I was a young man, I used to think that, being a writer, I should, smoke cloves, cigarettes, have a little chapeau, have a nice tweed jacket with the elbow patches and all this other kind of BS. And so the mystique of being a writer was much more important than actually, writing. And so I was much more concerned about that. In fact, there was a friend of mine who played bass in a band after we got out of the dorms, freshman year of college. And I remember several times because I didn't live with him or hang out with him after that, but I would see him over the years, and he would be on stage playing the bass, and I hadn't written anything. And I remember one day I was at one of his concerts and I'm jamming out and I'm like, yeah, you guys rock. And he's all like, hey man, like in the middle of the show, he points at me and goes, hey man, it's good to see you. How much writing have you done? And I felt like absolute dog poo poo. So please, my people, my writers, there's a common joke, sometimes a soccer mom writes more than a writer when she does her grocery list and does her to-do list. You have to write, and that's just basic bare bones of it. If you're going to be a writer, you have to write. You can try to have the mystique, you can have to try the being either playing the role, wearing a costume, it's Halloween, hey, wear that writer costume. But if you really want to write, you have to write, and that's the main thing that I desperately want to stress to you, because again, writing for me has been a life-changing emotional help. It's a coping skill at this point when I'm going through bad times. So please, if you really decide that you want to do this and you love it, you got to do it. You have to actually put the pen to paper and the paper to pen and actually do the rhyming and writing, just like young MC said. So please do that writing. Write that book, write that short story, write a novella, write a whole novel, write 280,000 words like I did for one book that I actually realized I had to split into two. Secondarily, don't fall into this mystique of, I need to be an alcoholic or a drug user or something like that to be a writer. No, you don't. You really don't. There is, you don't need to be the wounded, tortured soul BS. Sure, you're a wounded, tortured soul. I know I was. And guess how much writing I did because of that? A whole lot of jack squat, as a motivational speaker used to say. So don't do that. Get the help you need to deal with the drug or alcohol problem or pill problem or playing too much video games or whatever it is that's keeping you from writing. Get that figured out, because somewhere in the world, somebody needs your story. Somebody desperately wants you to write your story so they can read it, so they can feel really touched, to make their life better. And if you don't tell that story, that person is missing out. You're missing out on having that story written and being able to read it later, because maybe it really means something to you. Pardon me, I got the hiccups all of a sudden. When you're gonna read that later. So find the way to make your writing work best for you, and don't let any kind of substance, any kind of anything deny you from that, and don't let anything block you from it. There are plenty of ways to get an altered state of consciousness just by imagination. I do it all the time. I'll be driving, I'll listen to a certain song, and I'll imagine that scene of what's going on in the story. I'll sit there doing cardio. It's a huge thing. When I started cardio, I had nothing else to do. You can listen to music only so much before your mind just completely just wanders away. And so what I had to do was I started just imagining stories, and suddenly everything exploded. It took me several years to actually write them down, but then the stories came easy because I'd imagined everything, I'd thought it through. Not all great, again, not all good stories. I'm not saying they were perfect, but they were at least something, and something I could start with, and something I could start my writing journey with. So, cap it all. Don't try to, paint yourself, put on a costume to be a writer. Be a writer. Actually write. Don't use things to try to get to that tortured soul state. Just write and put that tortured soul emotion and pain and torture and trauma into your writing. Because again, that's how sometimes you will find that person who desperately needs your story to connect their own self to what's on the page to really do better. And that's a beautiful gift you can give to somebody, and that's a beautiful gift you can give to yourself. So get out there, enjoy your Halloween, but tomorrow, midnight, we got writing to do, and we're going to do it. We're going to make this happen. So keep watching, keep reading, keep writing, and we'll get there. Love y'all. Have a good night.